What if the man you trusted the most, the one who smiled, charmed, and offered to help you, was secretly plotting your death? For dozens of young women in the 1970s, that nightmare became reality. His name was Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy is one of the most infamous serial killers in American history. Between 1974 and 1978, Bundy preyed on dozens of women across multiple states, using charm, deception, and manipulation to lure them into traps that ended in brutal murder. The victims were young, bright, and full of promise. Their lives were cut short in unimaginable ways, leaving families shattered and a nation horrified. This is the chilling story of Ted Bundy, the charming monster. Ted Bundy was born on November 24, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont. From birth, his life began in deception. His mother, Eleanor Cowell, was unmarried, and to avoid shame, Ted was raised believing his grandparents were his parents and his mother was his sister. This fractured family identity planted the seeds of resentment, secrecy, and confusion. Even as a child, Bundy displayed troubling behaviors, an obsession with voyeurism, and a tendency to manipulate those around him. Despite these red flags, Bundy appeared normal, handsome, intelligent, and well-spoken. He blended into society with alarming ease. To outsiders, he was the picture of success, a law student politically involved and active in community work. But beneath this facade lurked something monstrous. The women Ted Bundy targeted were full of life and hope. They were daughters, sisters, and friends. Many were students at universities across Washington, Oregon, Utah, and Colorado. Linda and Healy, a bright 21-year-old with a passion for music, loved by friends and family. Janice Ott, a social worker who spent her life helping others. Georgianne Hawkins, a young college student who was admired for her kindness and intelligence. And many others, each with their own stories, dreams, and futures. Bundy's crimes are often told with his name at the center, but it's crucial to remember. The true story belongs to the victims who never had the chance to live their lives. Bundy's early relationships revealed patterns of control and insecurity. His first serious girlfriend, often referred to as Stephanie Brooks, left him due to his immaturity and lack of direction. This rejection scarred Bundy deeply, fueling his lifelong resentment toward women who reminded him of her, confident, attractive, and independent. Neighbors recalled his coldness, his obsession with pornography, and his tendency to spy on women. But these warning signs went unnoticed, hidden behind a mask of charisma. By the early 1970s, Bundy's double life had fully taken shape. Outwardly, he worked with the Republican Party in Washington state and even volunteered at a crisis hotline, ironically, helping save lives while secretly planning to take them. But inside, Bundy's urges escalated. His fantasies of control and domination grew darker, and soon fantasy was not enough. He began stalking women on college campuses, perfecting the art of deception, wearing a fake cast, asking for help carrying books, or impersonating an authority figure. It was only a matter of time before these manipulations turned deadly. The murders began in 1974. Women started disappearing in Washington state, seemingly vanishing into thin air. In January, Bundy abducted Linda and Healy from her dorm room. By March, Donna Manson, another student, disappeared. April brought the disappearance of Susan Rancourt, last seen leaving a campus event. In July, Bundy brazenly abducted 2 women in broad daylight from Lake Sammamish State Park, Janice Ott and Denise Naslund. Witnesses recalled a handsome man with his arm in a sling, introducing himself as Ted, asking for help loading a sailboat into his car. The pattern was chilling. Bundy weaponized trust, turning kindness into vulnerability, and lured women into his Volkswagen Beetle, his mobile prison. By mid-1974, law enforcement realized they were facing a serial predator. Women were disappearing at alarming rates, and witnesses consistently described a man named Ted driving a Volkswagen Beetle. But Bundy's clean-cut image and charm allowed him to slip past suspicion. Even when his name was reported to the police, he was dismissed as too smart and too normal to be a killer. The investigation grew frantic. Families demanded answers, the public panicked, and women across college campuses lived in fear. Bundy's downfall began with forensics and persistence. In 1975, after a failed abduction attempt in Utah, Bundy was arrested when police found suspicious items in his car: masks, handcuffs, and tools. Though not enough for a conviction, investigators grew certain he was their suspect. Later, bite mark evidence tied Bundy directly to the brutal murders at the Chi Omega sorority house in Florida. At the time, forensic odontology was controversial, but it provided prosecutors with crucial evidence to connect Bundy to the scene. Bundy never fully confessed until the very end of his life. During police questioning, he denied everything, often turning on his charm and intelligence to manipulate officers. But under pressure, his mask began to slip. His arrogance made him careless. His escapes from custody, once jumping out of a courthouse window, later tunneling out of a prison, only confirmed his cunning nature, but also exposed his desperation. It wasn't until his final days on death row that Bundy began admitting to the extent of his crimes, confessing to over 30 murders, though the real number remains unknown. In 1979, Ted Bundy stood trial for the murders of 2 young women at the Chi Omega sorority house in Florida. The trial was one of the first to be nationally televised. Viewers were stunned by Bundy's confidence. He acted as his own lawyer, cross-examined witnesses, and smiled for the cameras. But beneath the spectacle, the evidence was undeniable. Bundy was convicted and sentenced to death. Judge Edward Cowart, at sentencing, famously remarked, "It's a tragedy for this court to see such a total waste of humanity. You're a bright young man. You'd have made a good lawyer. But you went another way, partner." Ted Bundy was executed in the electric chair on January 24, 1989, at Florida State Prison. Outside, crowds celebrated, holding signs that read, "Burn, Bundy, burn." For the families of victims, there was no celebration, only a solemn reminder of lives lost. Bundy's execution closed one chapter, but it could never bring back their loved ones. The Bundy case left a haunting legacy. It forced society to confront the reality that evil can wear a smile, dress well, and appear completely ordinary. Ted Bundy proved that monsters don't always hide in the shadows. Sometimes they look like the boy next door. His charm was his disguise, his lies were his weapons, and his victims paid the price. In the end, his story is not about the killer he became, but about the innocent lives he stole. If you found this documentary insightful, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. Above all, let's honor the victims by remembering their names, their lives, and their stories.